Hey everyone, it's Brad and Josh here, and we welcome you to We'll Bring the Popcorn, the ultimate film and TV podcast.
So now I want to move us into our TV review of the week. We have the last two episodes of Alien Earth. This wraps up what has been a wild first season of this show. It does feel like we're going to be getting more episodes based on the way they leave it off, but man, we pick right back up where we left off with, just poor Arthur, man. Like, that was just a wild ending to episode 6 with just absolute crazy shenanigans going on here. Like, we're in the midst of just a ton of infighting here in this community. You have Boy Cavalier, who is still he still thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, but you see stuff slowly start to crumble around him a little bit here in these last few episodes, and I was really, really hoping that he would have gotten some sort of comeuppance here, but it feels like we're going to have to wait a little bit longer to get that. He gets a little bit of comeuppance here at the end, but I was really hoping he wasn't going to survive season 1, I'm not going to lie. Obviously, heavy spoilers here because we're at the end of the season. We've been spoiling it this entire way, so it's kind of your fair warning here for the rest of the way. But we get a lot of interesting things in these last two episodes because you get more of these creatures being involved. You've got xenomorphs on the loose and on the hunt in the wild, and just all sorts of crazy stuff that happens to really kick off these last two episodes.
Yeah, these last two were, I feel, kind of polarizing to a lot of people because it doesn't exactly end in a way that we were expecting. Like 7 and 8 almost both felt like a setup to a finale that we didn't get. Like, I didn't hate episode 8.
Sure.
But it definitely felt like there's significant things that happen, but it feels like it's not a true to form type of ending to whether if they knew going in that this was one season, if that's how they ended after one season, it didn't feel like a significant ending for that. But even if they setting up for a second season, it still left us with, all right, well, we're at an interesting point, but it didn't fully feel like a finale. Because 7, we kind of get more intrigue with it because we do have, Boy is getting more interest in the sheep and he's trying to figure out what to do there. And he starts contemplating, all right, I want to take this eye out of the sheep and put it in a human, but who do I put it in?
Right.
Because I'm not sure who I could trust. No, I don't want him to be too smart, but I don't want to be him too dumb.
Right.
I need to see exactly he's willing to sacrifice one of his employees or someone there to take over the sheep eyeball because he's going back and forth. And, he is asking different questions, asking about pie. And these are the first numbers. Do you know any more of it? And the sheep taps out the numbers of pi, and it's like, okay, so there's some significant universal knowledge that this sheep, this eyeball creature has. So it feels like more than the xenomorph, that eyeball creature has become the central kind of alien to this story because, we do get the xenomorph kind of gets... We learn significantly more about Wendy and kind of where her mental state is going because she's kind of turning against Boy and the humans, and she's contemplating, well, we're not synthetics like the other synthetics. We have a brain and a mind. We're not kids anymore, but we're not adults. And are we on our own side? Is nobody on our side now? And you also get to see, well, she's somehow able to tap into the computer systems and control things and go through the cameras and open up doors. And we see her definitely taking a turn like, all right, is she our hero anymore, or is she slowly turning into a type of villain in this? Which I enjoyed that arc of it because you really get to see a great dynamic played by her of this slow kind of brain always churning. What exactly am I doing or trying to do? What do I need to do? She's trying to figure it out all in real time. And you can kind of see that in her face and her head that she's planning and scheming, but you really don't know exactly what she's trying to do.
Yeah, she's such a fascinating character, and I want to give a little bit of a love to the actress who plays her. It's Sydney Chandler, who, if you don't know the last name, her father is Kyle Chandler. Who
That's surprising. I had no idea.
A phenomenal actor in his own right. Most notorious probably to most people for playing the lead coach in Friday Night Lights, the TV show. Incredibly popular actor. He's going to be in the Lantern series coming up here for DC, so you'll be seeing
Hal
more
Jordan.
of that. He's going to play Hal Jordan in the DCU. He's also been in Godzilla. Like, he's done several big time projects here. So the lineage there for her as an actress is phenomenal. She's got an incredible father to learn the craft from. And she's a very fascinating character in this show now because she's been kind of the central synth throughout all of this, but she's definitely, you're seeing the switch go off for her where she's slowly starting to realize, like, hey, if this is my impression of what humans are capable of, are they really going to have my back when I need them to? And you see her kind of rallying the rest of the synths around this thought, like, hey, we're the better versions of these humans, could we be? Like, what is to stop them if we were to band together and kind of, take over and do our own thing? And there's a very interesting dynamic at play here because of how things kind of wrapped up towards the end. Like you said, she's tapping more into her communication with the xenomorphs as well, but she's also got this 11-esque ability, if you want to compare it to like a Stranger Things, of where she has the telekinetic powers and she has like the strong intelligence of like computer systems and her ability to hack things with her mind. And she's a very fascinating character with some very interesting abilities, and it's going to be really interesting to see where they do go, because like you said, we've been so on the fence of whether or not we knew this was going to be just a one-off season or if there's multiple seasons planned. If they wrote it this way, only planning for one season, that took some guts, because it's a very ambiguous ending. Like, this is clearly leading to something in a second season that could be a very different dynamic from what we've had in the first one, because you go in thinking these aliens and these creatures are the real threats and the real like villains here, like the things that must be stopped, but that may not be the case anymore, especially if the head synth has the ability to control xenomorphs at this point. Very interesting shift in dynamics that we're heading to here with a potential second in season and beyond. I'm excited to see where it does go. I get what you're saying, because it does feel like it's incomplete if this is all we're getting. I will feel significantly different about where they end it, but just the way it feels like it's leading towards another season. Like, we have to explore this further.
Yeah, especially with the finale, you have some high-stake, big stuff that happens, and it's there, but it's much more subtle and controlled, because you have, as you said, Wendy is trying to figure stuff out, and she's trying to lead the rest of the Lost Boys with her, and it's more of a kind of a setup and scheming finale than it is like a significant action or horror or something else. Like, we got all that in that revisit to the ship episode, where we got all the tension and the horror and suspension, and the episodes after it didn't have quite as much to that. Like, we had some fun sequences because we also get Morrow has shown up at the island and he thinks he's got everything handled. Smee and Slightly have taken Arthur's body down to the beach, even though they, we get the chest burster scene, which was great to see in that and stuff. And you get Slightly kind of panicking because he doesn't know what to do. He thought Arthur was going to be fine and safe, and the alien creature is loose now and still trying to drag his body along. And then you get Morrow showing up with his group, but it doesn't go exactly as Morrow planned either. So we get kind of a Kirsch has set a trap for him, because he's been listening, he's been watching, he's kind of been behind, and that's such another dynamic character that you're just getting the lightest of surface covered with Kirsch to know exactly like what is going on in this synthetic's mind. Like, what exactly is he with Boy? Is he with the Lost Boys? We've got a lot of balancing of like, are these good people or are these bad people? Oh, yeah. And we also got significant with Adam learning that he's a synthetic, and that he's not what everything has been, and because he's been very dark with some things about basically telling Hermit, like, you either comply or you're basically going to be dead by the time you walk out of here. And there is that sequence where Adam kind of tries to talk Boy out of doing the alien eyeball creature with the human, but because he's synthetic, he gives in like pretty quickly and goes away with it. But you got a little bit more dynamic with that, but it just it does wrap up in the end. Like, I need another episode this season to fully set me with a cliff. Like, it left me a cliffhanger, but it wasn't one that I felt like fully satisfied that we ended on that.
Yeah, and I get it. And What I really enjoyed about the last episode in particular was them kind of turning the Lost Boys kind of turning the corner there and kind of fully going in, because you have this face off with Boy where, they incapacitate his help and it's just him, and you're like, oh, he's finally gonna get it, and you just see Wendy look at him going, run, and just telling him to run. And now it's this cat and mouse game where they're rounding up all of these people who they feel have done them wrong and who don't have their best interests at heart. And it's, all the people that you would think and suspect. And we do get a very fun fight showdown between Morrow and Kirsch, where they have it's been kind of teased back and forth that these two just don't like each other, that there's some distrust there, and they've built that tension a little bit throughout the season. And that does get paid off in a fun fight between the two of them where neither really wins in that instance, but you get a really cool fight there. But you get the Lost Boys here who are just kind of mowing through anybody that stands in their way at this point, and it's a really interesting tack that they're taking with them, because they're not really killing the main villains here, because you leave on this ominous scene where they're in this cage that's been built very clearly for the xenomorph, or like some of these alien creatures to kind of keep it in, or and keep it contained, almost like a Hulk cage, very, very similar to that. But they have all of these people in there, and now you see them, like it's left very ominously with them just kind of having that look like we're in control now, and you don't know what that's going to look like for everything going forward. And I can get where you kind of see where that's very unsatisfactory, but I'm leaning on the hope that they're already working on a second season, and we're seeing where things are going to shift now. Like, where do they go now that they have all these people contained? Like, what is their next motive? And that's kind of an interesting place to leave it on as a cliffhanger. But yeah, season 2 is going to be very interesting to see the shift in tone from the show to where the xenomorphs were the threat, or the perceived threat, and now they are, but they're not.
Because now one's at the command of a synth, a xenomorph is, but then you have the alien creature, the eyeball creature, who's just kind of
doing its
own thing, which it does feel like that's setting, almost like the other stuff is a distraction from what is really going on with the eyeball creature, and that's going to become significantly different than we've experienced in an alien film so far.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely fascinating to see it go very violently from the sheep to Arthur at this point, where it takes over Arthur's body, which was very crazy. I just remember watching it going, oh no, like, oh no, it found Arthur, and now it's taking over Arthur. And it's such a wild show, man. I had a lot of fun with this. I really did. Like, this is a show that I had zero expectations for going in, not knowing what we were getting. And week by week, I found myself just really enjoying the ride that it's taking us on. It did feel a little truncated, like it's only 8 episodes, but you were I could see the argument to be made, like, I wish there was like a 9th or even a 10th episode here, because they left it on the bone. But how many times do we see shows that take 10 episodes and we're like, oh, they could have condensed this down to 8 and it would have been awesome.
Well, this
feels like it's episodes. A little bit, it feels like it was a little bit flipped here, where it was like, we only got 8 episodes, but this could have been maybe 9 if they wanted to, or maybe 10 for just people like myself who just like round numbers. But like, I appreciate the fact that it leaves us wanting more, rather than it drug on a little too long and it could have been truncated to like in 8 episodes and it would have been perfect. This show didn't really feel like it wasted any time ever, which I appreciate, because the pacing of the show is fantastic. It gives you a chance to catch your breath when you need it to, and then it just jumps right at you with like action and crazy stuff to kind of get back and like, all right, here we go. Like, we're on a journey here. And I love that it takes a moment to catch its breath when it needs to, but it doesn't overstay its welcome either, because they jump right back into what they need to. So it's a good balance that they've struck, and I like that they've kept us wanting more rather than wishing they'd have left stuff out. I like it when it's formatted this way versus what we've seen on other shows, where it's just like, okay, they did too much backstory and too much diving in, that they could have paid a little less attention to this and really given us the meat of the story. They gave us a lot of meat here, but we want more, and that's good, in my opinion. Like, I think that's a good thing.
It's kind of comparing back what our discussion on Marvel Zombies was, that was a 4-episode miniseries that left us like we needed more, not wanting more, but feeling we needed more.
Sure.
And this one left us, well, I want more.
Yeah.
I want to see a little bit more horror, and I want to see a little bit more of what the Synths are doing here this season before we jump into it next season. And yeah, it kind of just left you wanting in a good way and a bad way, like both ways. Like it made me excited for season 2 that we can really see what Wendy and the Lost Boys and the Synths are going to be doing with pretty much every single other person that's left alive is inside of that, cage that the Lost Boys were originally in. And that was one of my favorite sequences of these final 2 episodes, is when the Lost Boys were locked up in there and Wendy was locked up in there, and Boy strolls in with Adam, like so cocky with his ball and everything else, like he's in such control and he has everything, and they're kind of talking down to the Lost Boys and stuff, and Wendy's like, okay, and flings the door open. Like, you just see Boy's face and the realization, like, I'm not in control as I thought I was. And like, that was just a great switching moment. Like, like boy's in trouble here. And she tells him to run and everything. It was just a really significant moment when she flips that door open and he's just, help me.
The flip in the power dynamic was really cool in that moment. It was a really well done scene and kind of sets the stage for everything that we've got coming up now and moving forward. One thing I like about this is there's no clear-cut good versus evil in this. Like, you would think it's like the Lost Boys and you're just rooting for them to do well, but based on how they're moving here, like, they may not be the good guys moving forward, and they may not be the right, like, who's going to rise up against them and who's going to stop them if they become too powerful. Like, it plays such a good dynamic of character development in here where it's like you're rooting for nobody, really, because like I've left a lot of these episodes wondering, well, like, okay, this person sucks. I'm ready for them to kind of get taken care of. This person sucks too. This person, oh, I'm really rooting for you. It feels like the one guy we all rooted for was Arthur in this. Like, you felt like the one good guy, and even he didn't like make it out unscathed. You know,
even
what I mean?
talked about Hermit. Like, I want to see him die because he's survived more than Ripley and significant characters. Yeah. Like. And he's still there. Like, he's a decent enough guy, but there's just something about that in the alien lore. Is like, I was even like, why is he still alive and around? Why does
he get so many
and
changes?
You see a significant kind of change and difference as he's seeing Wendy change and stuff. So I'm thinking maybe season 2 might not be good for him either. But it's you don't, like, Nibs kill somebody and went on a psychotic break, and you had slightly led to Arthur's death and still went through it, dragging his body, and Smee went along with it, even though he kind of stood up a little bit. He went along with it. And, Wendy, she's commanded the xenomorph to attack and kill people. And Curly, even, like, she was ready to turn on Wendy because Boy was her favorite. And that was kind of a great moment for me with her, because you kind of got annoyed at her because she's kind of going behind Wendy's back and trying to become the main person. And then when she's like, but I'm your favorite, Boy's like, no. And you see that kind of change and shift of, like, she thinks she's doing all this because she's the best and she's the favorite and she's going to take over for Wendy and everything else. And then Boy gives a moment like, I care less about you than I do, like, a pencil. Like, I don't care. I was using you to do what I needed you to get done. So, yeah, like, all of the Lost Boys, they all have significant issues and problems and things that you can cheer for, but also root against. And even, like, Hermit and Kirsch and Morrow and just, like, everybody
sucks.
They're kind of right there in the middle, like, well, if they die, they die. If they live, they live.
But it's fun. You can have some fun dynamics and playing with the story here, and I kind of like that. It's kind of refreshing because it usually is such a hard line. Like, this is your hero. They're altruistic. They may be flawed, but in the end, you still want to root for them. And then you can make a little bit of an argument for, like, the Lost Boys in that sense. Like, some of their actions are kind of justified if you want to do some logic gymnastics and kind of dance around some of these things, but at the same time, like I'm not really finding myself rooting for them either. Like it's a fun dynamic to play of like I might like you this week, but I might hate you next week, and that's fun. Like you can have some fun with that. Like everybody kind of sucks here, and it's a fun dynamic. It makes for a really interesting way to tell some stories, and I'm kind of enjoying the path that we're on here with this because it's a ton of fun. I've really enjoyed this season so far, and I'm excited for what's to come.
Yeah, it's been fun. Like I enjoyed it overall. It had its dips and its valleys and its high moments and everything else, and it had some things that most first seasons have that they're still trying to figure out this world and their story and where they're going. There's very few shows that come out of the gate superiorly strong, nailing everything. It's really that second season, like it's like second through fifth or sixth is where most shows really find their heart, their soul, and their dynamic. So I am looking forward to hopefully, they've said the viewership has been really good. It's been really well received by critics and fans alike. So that it seems like a second season is going to be greenlit, but nothing has been done yet. But I'm looking forward to see what dynamic we have in the second season after everything that they did in the first season here to kind of move us in a similar but different direction. We're still on the island. We've got a loose xenomorph. We have the humans captured and the synths in control. Like there's significant, interesting story to go with, and that's like I said. It was a good and bad finale because it ended on a good cliffhanger to give us something to want for in a season 2, but also almost feeling like I didn't get enough of what I needed or wanted to see this season before you kind of ended it there. Like, a lot of people want more horror and more of that. It had a couple episodes before. It didn't fully dive too deep into the horror aspect, but it has some tension and it has some, craziness there. But I really do want to see how they go about this second season, because are we going to leave the island? Are we going to have the aliens merge out into the rest of the earth and the world? What happens with Yutani and everything that was, kind of starting there, because everybody she sent in is, captured or dead now. Like barely anybody but Morrow is still alive after all that, even though technically he's not alive since he's a cyborg and everything else. But it's setting up for a second season that I don't know exactly where they're going with it. As you said, the Lost Boys aren't exactly heroes in this. I mean, which is weird because they're kids in human bodies. It creates such a mind twist with you because they're kids in adult bodies that are synthetic with kid brains, but they're doing adult stuff, and it's creating this like, do I like them? Do I not like them? It's challenging your perception of everything that's going on.
Yeah, they're having to grow up very quickly, and you got to see how they're adjusting to having to do that, right? So yeah, there's a lot to be explored. Obviously, it's called Alien Earth, not Alien Island. So, eventually it's going to break out into more and where they go with it. And we'll see what they do. Do they, turn their attention on everyone else at this point? Like, there's a lot more to be explored for sure for this. And I'm ready for it. It's going to be really fun to see where they take off. There's a lot of meat on the bone to tell stories with, which I'm more than happy to get in another season or two. And we'll see the life cycle of this show and what happens. I'm happy that the viewership has done well. I'm happy that, people are liking it. We've both enjoyed this show, and I'm ready to see, season 2 and what we get out of it. Cause there's a lot of things that you can explore, a lot of things in the air, a lot of questions. And, sometimes that's a good thing. It gives you more opportunities to explore, because if everything were buttoned up, we want a season 2 at this point. You know what I mean? Like, would it leave us wanting to explore things further? And I think they did a good job of leaving enough on the bone for us to get some really meaty stories if we go into a second season here.
I'm waiting to see if they Jurassic Park us. So like the second season, we do get off the island with the aliens and we go into the mainland for a little bit. But then the next season, we just jump into another island where, there was another lab, or maybe Yutani had alien creatures on that lab hidden somewhere. And we just kind of jump from island to island. Oh, now we've got to go back to Neverland because there was some significant that helped there. In my mind, it popped in like, are they going to Jurassic Park us? Because it could, like, we've spent everything on an island. They go into the mainland. Is it all going to be about the mainland, or are we going to go back into some more easier to contain storylines when you're on an island and you can control the population and what you have there, instead of like millions of people getting chest bursters put in them, and you just have the Earth overran by. I would love to see the Earth overran by xenomorphs and see exactly what that happens there. Like there's significantly huge amount of things that they can go with this, whether it's focusing on the xenomorphs, where it's focusing on the alien eyeball creature, or if it's focusing on a synth army taking over and them, Wendy able to turn like every synth on Earth on humans. And we see that's actually the problem that we have going on here. Less xenomorph and alien, but more like a synth takeover.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of the direction they're going. We'll see where they explore with it. I'm expecting probably some kind of time jump a little bit forward to kind of get us to the next point, because you see where it leads, and then you see where it feels like they're about ready to branch out and take over. So maybe we get a little bit of a time jump here in season 2, a little bit ahead to where that plan has started to come into fruition a little bit. And then maybe we'll see what kind of resistance gets built up against them to kind of help counterbalance that, because it doesn't necessarily have to be xenomorphs, but they'll be involved in some capacity, and we'll see where the rest of the synths and what their plans for the rest of the Earth are, because you got to go somewhere after the island. So we'll see where the journey takes us.
Yes, we also got the dynamic: can Wendy stay in control of the xenomorph? Like she's been able to command it and get it to listen and follow and listen to commands. Like what happens when maybe the alien eyeball creature talks to it and convinces it to turn on the synths and everything else? Like there's a lot of dynamic, a lot of room that they can play with this.
For sure. I'm excited for that. Absolutely. But Alien Earth Season 1 is a fantastic jump off to a brand new story in the world of aliens, where they come to Earth and it's just jumping off from there. It's a lot of fun. It takes its breath when it needs to. It's got action. It's got horror. It's got a ton of different elements to it. It leaves us wanting more, which I personally appreciate. I'm giving this season an 8 out of 10 to start. There's not without some of its minor issues, but I think the good outweighs the bad in this situation. And it leaves me wanting more, which will boost my score to an 8. Knowing that there's more meat on the bone here, and there's some really interesting stories that they could dive into for season 2.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think it was fun. I think it could have upped the horror element a little bit more, but it also went, giving us some different things, cutting a little bit of the alien lore out. It's kind of funny because we're going to be flipped on from the Smashing Machine. I'm giving this a 7.5. Doesn't mean I didn't like it. I enjoyed it, but I do think there was some pacing, some story issues that they could have figured out. And the finale wasn't as, like the 7th episode left me more shocked than the 8th episode did. Sure. So I was expecting maybe a little bit more significant finale to it that maybe another episode or 2 could have really done, but I go back and forth. Like, did it even need that? Is it an okay ending? It just kind of left me a little mixed with how it ended, knowing that I want to see more. But with how it wrapped up, it felt like we built up to a lot of stuff and we just kind of got to the point that it's going to start going forward, and then it was done. But it was still a lot of fun.
Definitely looking forward to seeing where they go from here. All episodes of Season 1 of Alien Earth are available now on FX and Hulu and on Disney+. Go check it out. Come to our social medias. Let us know what you think about the show if you've watched it, if you've been watching along as well. Excited for Season 2 for that one for sure. To find all of the episodes of We'll Bring the Popcorn, go to our YouTube page, hit the like and subscription button so you're getting our episodes when they drop each and every Monday. If you're listening to us in the audio realm on any of the podcasting platforms that we're on, please don't forget to give us a 5-star review. It really helps elevate the profile of the show. And don't forget to go to willbringthepopcorn.com, where it has all of our archive videos, all of our social media information, as well as our merch store, so you continue to support the show in that way. We cannot thank you enough for your continued support.